Hey, this is Jeff, and welcome back to the Coito Ergo Sum DLC crossover. Last week we got to Ulysses' temple, where he may or may not be planning to launch a nuclear missile at the NCR. Specifically, that missile. One small correction before we get started. Well, not so much a correction as a potentially confusing feature of the crossover. The pattern we backed up from the War Dramatic last week unlocks replicas of some of Lana Elsker's stage costumes, but the submenu where you order them is under the menu for outfits from the Divide, which has a few other patterns as well. Just like Honest Hearts, there's a reward locker that becomes available when we finish the DLC, and those patterns will be in it. But unlike Honest Hearts, Lonesome Road lets you go home at any time. So if you get the Lana Elsker patterns from the Cave of the Abaddon and run back to the bar for some cosplay fun with your staff before confronting Ulysses, you'll be disappointed because you can't get to that menu until you finish the DLC. Not saying that's what happened to me, just being thorough. Anyway, Ulysses may or may not have already gotten the launch codes from Eddie. If he does want to nuke the NCR, but he doesn't have the codes yet, then bringing Eddie back here after rescuing him last week is a mistake, and we'll have to make sure he doesn't get them. If he does have the codes already, and he just wants Courier 6 to be there so he can gloat, then coming back here might also be a mistake. But if that's the case, he probably won't wait forever, and he'll launch when he gets tired of waiting, so we really have no choice but to see what the situation really is. Best case, it's all a big misunderstanding. Maybe he knows how bad I want a superweapon to protect my adult entertainment empire, and he wants to give me one for my birthday. So let's find out. And here we are. Our objective is now deal with Ulysses. There he is. As we've heard numerous times, he has an old world flag on his back. And while I shot Saltapon wounds in the head before he even knew I was there, and I would have done the same thing to Elijah if the opportunity had presented itself, I'm still not convinced Ulysses needs to die. It's also worth noting that, as we read on the terminal downstairs last week, there are Ibot replication pods near the launch platform. That's one right there. There's another one there. The Ibots will support him in combat and try to keep him healed, and the pods let them respawn infinitely. And finally, the last 6 warheads we need for the challenge are scattered around the room, but we probably shouldn't start blowing them up until we talk to him. That doesn't look good. And I stand corrected, that can't be the one we saw from outside. But just because he can put a missile on the launch pad doesn't necessarily mean he can actually launch it. So we better talk to him and see what's going on.
Even in this place, NCR's shadow falls. Or is it just you, Courier, without the bear's corpse to weigh you down? Judging by your shadow, maybe you can't let your machine go. Doesn't matter now. Either way, the Divide giants are awakening. The missiles here on their way home. There is no way to stop them.
You know, you keep insinuating that I'm the NCR's lapdog or something, and I've corrected you enough times that I'm pretty sure you're just doing it to trigger me at this point. So consider that topic closed. What I can't figure out is why you're doing this.
You've answered your own question, and you'll die with that question on your lips. You don't see, listen, even when it's all around you, no matter if I nailed it into your head like a gift from Caesar. You brought the Divide to life, Courier. You walked the road, brought the bear, then the bull, brought me, following your tracks. And when I saw the divide you made, I saw a second chance, a new way of thinking. My world, no longer the East. And you brought the West in that package, destroyed it all, nearly killed me, flesh and spirit. You destroyed something larger than the bear, greater than the bull. And even when you could have turned away, you brought it again in that machine. You destroyed a nation taking its first breath, a place that could have been my home. Now, I'll destroy yours.
Yeah, I was afraid it was something like that. I didn't come back out of idle curiosity. I came back to confirm my suspicions, which, now that I say it out loud, does kind of sound like I came back out of curiosity. But if I was right, and it sounds like I am, I really came back to stop you. And considerations of collateral damage aside, if you meant to kill me, you could have done it in a way that wasn't so needlessly convoluted.
Not if you believe in what you follow. Kill no courier. Kaiser's words. I honored them. Other couriers could have been legion, like me. The truth is, you serve nothing, believe nothing, killing you, meaningless.
Okay, that's pretty clever. You're stepping up your taunt game. I admit my ego is never more than a few minutes away from getting me in trouble, but I'm not falling for it this time. What happened at the Divide, what I did, was an accident. What you're doing, it's madness.
No. Now there is purpose. I believe you when you say you were careless. The Divide, the chip, the machine you brought here. Many messages can be taken from that, intended or not. What I do now is an act of conviction.
If you blame me for the Divide, which is fair, then let me answer for it, not others.
Blame you? No. Learned from you. Both the weapon to kill a nation and the strength to do it. You showed me a road, a way to carry my message. You've already answered for what you've done. Now the flag you follow will answer for it.
Listen to yourself. We agree that I destroyed the Divide because I acted without understanding the situation as well as I thought I did, right? So how is that strength? Overconfidence is a weakness that's destroyed people and nations alike. And I repeat, this is between you and me, not anyone else.
No. The paths we've walked, the roads and the flags above them carry equal blame. You walked the West, didn't stay. You know the reason. The bear grows without structure, follows a symbol without knowing its history. And knowing that you believe in a bear's sickness and have given it strength, then that gives more reason to lay waste to your homeland. After this, only one flag will remain over the Mojave. Let that one fly, or destroy itself.
On one hand, if you only bluff when you're desperate, that's a tell. On the other hand, if you never bluff when you're desperate, that's also a tell. So maybe it's time to play on his overconfidence. He knows he's second to none when it comes to manipulating people. It's all over his logs, and he got me to come where he wanted me. He played the NCR card and the ego card, and I didn't lose my cool, so now he's dangling the carrot of absolving me of at least some of my guilt. I'm not responsible for what I did to the Divide. It was society's fault. Let's turn that around on him and hope he doesn't expect me to bluff when the stakes are this high. Are you really not getting it? The Legion posed an immediate threat to my business, and I dealt with it directly. The NCR poses a less immediate threat, but there's still a long-term risk. I was planning to mitigate it with a bit more subtlety, but if you want to nuke 'em, be my guest.
You destroyed your own homeland, seeing a nation burn. Didn't think that would matter anymore to you. There's a strength in that. Lack of attachment. Still, you're here now. If there's no more answers you want, then we'll end this.
Damn it. I mean, I'm not that surprised he called my bluff. It's just that after all my protests, it's highly ironic that my only option to salvage this is the NCR reputation option. I was hoping there might be a speech check or something. I think the only faction choices are NCR, which is still open, Legion, which obviously isn't, or Mr. House, who I disconnected from his network so I could take over New Vegas myself. Look, I know I just said I'm done responding to your NCR taunts, but I'm not doing this to protect the NCR. If I thought you could target the missiles precisely enough to only hit military and political targets, I really would let you launch. But I won't let you nuke innocent civilians. I wouldn't let you do it in Legion territory either, or anywhere else. My faith isn't in the NCR government, it's in the people. People like the followers of the apocalypse, or the numerous tribal groups they've displaced or assimilated. If you've been paying attention, those are the people I share common ground with. Those are the people I've never hesitated to help if they asked.
Your actions have carried strength. If you speak for the two-headed bear, I'll hear your words, even if I will be the only one to hear them. If you believe it should not die this day, then answer me why.
Now we get a speech check. But you can also talk him down if you picked up enough lore along the way. It's tricky, but you don't need high speech skill to pull it off. So let's play with fire. Literally. I'm afraid I might not have dug deep enough into some of Eddie's dialogue to get all the clues there, but we did find all of his logs, so let's go with that. Your tapes prove you've walked the Mojave, yet learned the wrong lessons.
Comes down to perspective, how far one's walked, and what they've left behind. If you challenge this moment, let's hear your perspective. If my words are all you have, let's hear them.
And when I say it's tricky, I mean tricky. There's no bracketed prefix to let you know which choices will successfully navigate his dialogue minefield, but even some of the context clues seem very subtle to me. Like right off the bat, it might seem tempting to use a quote we've heard him use at least twice in this DLC and once before in Old World Blues, but he literally just dared us to use his own words against him, so he probably has an answer to that ready to go in his mind already. In the logs of the Whitelegs, you mentioned your tribe and its past.
My tribe? That log? No. It concerned the Whitelegs, training them to kill. For Caesar. There is no meaning there beyond the road to New Canaan, the history of the murder of its people, and Caesar's past.
The first choice is obviously wrong. His tribe wasn't New Canaan, it was the Twisted Hares. Joshua was a New Canaanite, which is why Caesar was so obsessed with wiping them out. And given how disgusted he sounded in the logs about the Whitelegs trying to emulate his customs, comparing them to the Twisted Hares is probably going to piss him off. I'm talking about the past, in the respect they tried to show you.
Respect? The braids I wore, they took that from me. Thought it made them more like me, more willing to have Caesar listen. They didn't know what the braids meant, the mark of my tribe, before Caesar came, before Wilpus came for them at dry wells. There was death in that meeting, even while Wilpus smiled, asked for our help against the other tribes. All the while, they were looking to cast our history on the fire, and did. Another tribe, consumed by the bull. Nothing left.
We definitely didn't grow to respect the Whitelegs. Pity them, maybe. And it didn't sound like the Twisted Hares survived in any meaningful sense. Some of them lived, but they were assimilated and became Legion like Ulysses himself. So, you carry two symbols then, the mark of America and of the Twisted Hares, neither dead.
Both survived, pieces of them, remnants, nothing more. If you feel there is meaning in the Whitelegs taking the braids of my tribe, what they did, insult, not respect.
Oh boy. Well, we probably don't want to imply that the only reason genocide didn't work before is that it wasn't thorough enough. And frankly, the symbol of the two-headed bear represents expansionist authoritarian ideology, and I don't want that to survive any more than he does. Maybe there's something similar to be said about that old world flag on your back.
You're saying when the meaning gets lost, that what happens here can make things worse. Happened in the Mojave. Flags of the bear and bull. Nothing can prevent what comes. The missiles will launch. These questions, your words or mine, what do they matter to you?
Yeah. Telling him I'm just babbling to stall for time probably isn't a recipe for success, but both of those seem good. I don't know. If dying here would prevent the launch, I'd consider sacrificing myself to save thousands, but I kind of offered that previously. Twice, I think, and he didn't bite. And dying pointlessly to win an argument while all those people die anyway, that's really not my style. Plus, I like the middle option better anyway. Destroying the symbol is never the answer. Changing what it represents, that's something else.
It may be that as much destruction has been written in the earth here. One buried this place, yet it lived on between us. One may build it again, build others. Your history has proven this here. There's truth in your words, but even if there's hope in change, it may not matter. The divide still stands against us.
I know exactly what he means. He said the marked men hate us both, and they were camped out all around the temple, presumably because they were trying to break in and kill him. And just because I killed the ones that were out there yesterday doesn't mean there aren't more waiting in the wings. So forgive my own ego-fueled monologue, but you once called me a coward for killing at a distance. Well, what you call cowardly, I call smart. If somebody needs to die, I don't need to gloat or make them suffer or see the look in their eyes when they finally realize they screwed up. I'd rather just get it over with quickly, efficiently, and with as little risk as possible to myself and any bystanders. Which usually means doing it from long range without warning. On the other hand, what you call brave, I might call foolhardy. I see killing up close and personal as a last resort when all else fails, not a demonstration of my virility. But instead of insulting each other because of our differences, it might be more productive to focus on what we have in common. We get the job done. And just maybe we'll discover that drawing on different perspectives makes this job easier. It's certainly true in business. Let's find out if it's true in combat, too.
Our enemies gather outside, shadows of the bear and bull. They will have found their way in, just as you did. It was always my intention. In case I could not kill you, the marked men would flood this place, cut off your escape. If we cannot prevent what comes, then let us make our stand here. Two couriers together at the divide.
And now it hits the fan. With luck, I can take out some marked men while I'm completing the Warhead challenge.
They come for us, east and west alike.
I think that console's blocking the detonator. 12.7 millimeter submachine gun. Nice choice. I favor those myself.
Beasts from the divide. To the divide they return.
I don't think the game makes him immortal if you become allies. I'll try to keep an eye on him, but he's really tough, and like I said, his iBots heal him if he gets injured.
Mercy killings. Let them rest.
Plus, I might have bigger problems of my own if the marked men get on top of us. Or if I fall in a hole.
Watch the floor. Minds, tactics of the bear.
Damn it! I left like a dozen satchel charges in the cave of the Abaddon. I forgot to pick them back up after Plan A went sideways. Might have saved us a lot of trouble here if I laid them down around the door when I came in. Oh well. The main problem right now is finding my way back upstairs. Great. AD doesn't set off mines, but apparently he can set off laser tripwires.
Beasts from the Divide.
Heal my crippled limbs. We're straight into running around like a maniac mode, and I can't afford to be limping.
To the Divide they return.
I guess he came down here to see if I was okay. So much for me keeping an eye on him. Still some red on the compass, though.
Mercy killings. Let them rest.
If they're hiding behind warheads, not for long. Behind me, apparently. I think Eddie just shot a grenade out of a guy's hand. Nice. We've got that under control. I'm going to finish off the warheads. Quest update. That means the marked men are all dead. And there's one more warhead in here somewhere. Well, other than the ones already mounted on the missiles, obviously. There it is. That's a little close. Guys, you might want to stand back a little bit. Follow me over here if you don't mind. Should be good enough. There we go. 30 out of 30. Now let's have a drink of water and see about canceling this launch. This terminal is already engaged in its countdown sequence and the abort code has been overridden. You might be able to change the missile's target or accelerate the countdown and launch the missiles immediately. So it turns out Ulysses actually has gifted me a super weapon to protect my adult entertainment empire. But the Legion's gonna fall apart without Kaisar, and if I get a chance to take out Linnaeus, it'll just happen that much faster, so nuking them would be a waste of materiel. I was only half kidding when I tried to bluff Ulysses about nuking the NCR. If I really thought we could take out the military and political leadership without civilian casualties, I can't deny I'd be tempted. But we don't have precise coordinates, the missiles are 200 years old, and they were probably never that accurate in the first place. And if the one I launched from Ashton is any indication, who knows where these would actually land. So no, we're not doing that. Cancel the launch and save them for a rainy day. The abort code is encrypted with an incredibly advanced pre-war military encryption sequence. You'd have to be a code-breaking robot to crack it in time. Well, since science skill of 100 isn't good enough, we'll ask Eddie for help. One of Whitley's logs said that was one of his specialties.
Experiment log 369248/A. iBot Duraframe Universal Interface Override System. This is Dr. Whitley presiding. Initial tests of the override system are promising. Against unsecured or lightly encrypted targets, the iBots have a 98% success rate. More heavily protected systems are still problematic. Military-grade encryption presents a very real possibility of critical overload of key systems. We've stopped tests before any robots were destroyed. But if we don't address the problem, our iBots will fry themselves hacking military networks.
If you hadn't heard the previous log entries, it might be a surprise that he can do this, but are you volunteering to stop this missile? I also wasn't kidding when I said I'd be willing to die to save others if that was the only option, although I suppose you never really know until you're in that situation. If you have time to think about it and you're in the business of saving lives, like a video game protagonist, or say a doctor, there's bound to be some mental calculus going on, like if I sacrifice myself for this person right now, how many people will die in the future because I'm not there to save them? And of course your instinct for self-preservation will be doing its best to steer that line of reasoning toward the "it's probably better for the world in the long run if I live" conclusion. But there's a big difference between running into a burning building to save one person and dying to prevent a nuclear war. That one's a no-brainer. Also in the no-brainer category, I don't care how much sentimental attachment I have to a piece of gear. If losing it would save someone, I'm doing it. If I could jam Christine's sniper rifle into a pair of relays to short out the launch computer, but the rifle would get melted to slag in the process, I would do it in a heartbeat. Or an even more meaningful example, the Enfield. And I've talked at length about being an AI skeptic and how it's mathematically impossible for a binary computer to be sentient no matter how closely they mimic human behavior with clever machine learning algorithms. If Eddie's a binary computer, he's no more alive than the Enfield is. But there's the catch. We don't know if he's a binary computer. He might have quantum technology or organic components or unspecified magic MacGuffins inside him. The Fallout franchise, like the retro sci-fi it's inspired by, tends to have a lot of technobabble and hand-waving when it comes to the scientific principles behind its technology. And the game really wants you to believe Eddie is a person. And if there's any significant chance he's actually a person, then it's his choice. If that's what you want, let's do it. Damn it, Eddie. I said stop the launch. I didn't say blow up my lovely stockpile of WMDs. I might have needed to use them as a deterrent later. Although, to be fair, considering how the we only have them as a deterrent thing worked out for the pre-war world, and my own less-than-perfect record using technology wisely, maybe it's best that I don't get to keep them. Good call, my friend. Goodbye, Eddie. You were the real hero all along. You have lost Eddie's enhanced sensors perk. Thanks for rubbing it in, game. And now I don't think we have to do anything else with the console. I think we just need to get out of here. Where's Ulysses? There he is. Dude, you coming?
If we're done here, let's leave the divide behind. If we get separated, I'll meet you above Hopeville, near the canyon wreckage.
Sounds like a plan. Let's roll. And I keep seeing the shield symbol on my health bar, so the explosions are doing real damage. They just can't get through my mighty t-shirt.
Hopeville burned, lightless in the night, invisible fires of radiation scorching it from within and without. It is said a man still walked its streets with a tattered jacket, an old world flag etched on the back. He remained there, perhaps as punishment for the scars he left on the wastes, or a reminder of a history he could not forget. For Ulysses, his journey was over. The Courier had been the end of his road. As for the Courier, he turned his back on his home for the second time and made his way back, navigating the treachery of the divide. Tunnelers and the marked men avoided the lone figure, as if recognizing the Courier's right to passage, or out of fear. The Courier walked until he stood again upon the edge of the divide, the last road he would walk before the second battle for Hoover Dam. There, beside his feet, was a final package from one courier to another, a footlocker bearing a gift and a message. But that message, it is something for couriers to carry, and for them alone. The lights flickered across the divide, reminders that the old world histories persist and find meaning in the present. It said, war, War never changes. Men do. Through the roads they walk. And this road has reached its end.
And now the game teleports us back to the Mojave, right outside the canyon wreckage. The Divide broke cities, flayed skin from bone, and threatened to destroy the world, but you survived it. And stopped it. You can put a single point into any of your special attributes. You also gain reputation with the Followers of the Apocalypse and the Brotherhood of Steel for stopping another Armageddon. If you launch the missiles, you get infamy with the target and fame with the opposed faction, obviously. But you also get fame with the boomers and powder gangers because they approve of blowing things up on general principle. And the Brotherhood of Steel fame is important because finishing this DLC without launching the nukes is the only way to get your reputation to idolized with them. Otherwise it caps at liked. And that's a poetic outcome for reasons I'll go to in a minute. As for the special attribute, that's a major benefit at lower levels, but at this point it's mostly cosmetic for Courier Jeff. I'm at the level cap, so I don't need to boost anything to meet the requirements for another perk, and all my skills are 100, so I won't get any bonus skill points no matter what I pick. Agility would give a small increase to my action points, but from a pure role-playing perspective, what attribute would Courier Jeff be motivated to improve after his recent experiences? Gotta be perception. Which also slightly increases the distance that things show up on the compass, and that's useful, so it's not purely cosmetic. No XP because we're at the level cap, but we do still get the stuff in the loot locker. Courier Duster, which, like Ulysses' dialogue, is probably going to be the damn NCR version, not the Independent Vegas version. Divide outfit patterns for the War Dramatic, which, like I said earlier, not only lets us make replica dusters, which is nice if you don't like the one the game gives you, but also somewhat counterintuitively unlocks the menu for the Lana Elsker costumes we found at Lollipops in the Cave of the Abaddon. Old Glory, Ulysses' unique staff, which he mentioned in dialogue, but I didn't see him use in combat. Or maybe he did and I just missed it. Either way, melee weapons aren't really Courier Jeff's cup of tea, but it's hard to argue with a melee weapon with a DPS over 100. Another red glare, in case you missed the one at the Marked Men camp. Snakebite tourniquet. I think that's the necklace Ulysses was wearing. I noticed it when we were talking to him, but the conversation was a bit intense and it didn't seem like the right time to compliment him on how well he accessorizes. If you're not already immune to poison because of the augmented heart from Old World Blues, that's really useful. Ulysses' Duster, Ulysses' Last Message, and Ulysses' Mask, unique variant of the breathing mask. Whoa! Rad resistance 50. Maybe I should have waited until we had that before I did the Courier's Mile. That's very nice. I have plenty of carry capacity, so I might as well take the rockets too. Bitter drink. I have enough stim packs that I'm never going to use that, but if I leave it, I'll be confused the next time I come by and the locker's not empty. And we will be back shortly, but I have some housekeeping to take care of first. Anyway, the replica dusters from the War Dramatic don't have any damage threshold or stat buffs, so they're purely cosmetic. If you like the way the duster looks, but you don't like the faction symbol the game gave you, you can wear one that suits your attitude better. But real dusters are light armor that only weighs 3 pounds, which, if I'm not mistaken, is less than the combined weight of my boots, jeans, and t-shirt, so I'd be a tiny bit faster and sneakier. And they have damage threshold of 13, which I know I just said War Dramatic items like my t-shirt don't have any damage threshold, but if you wear a whole ensemble, they actually are roughly equivalent to a similar vanilla outfit. Like the t-shirt, jeans, and boots combined have a DT of like 2 or something, comparable to a Merc Grunt outfit. Anyway, if it weren't for the need to represent the brand image in public, I would totally wear that duster. Ulysses' version. I'm definitely not becoming a walking endorsement for the NCR, but I could live with an old world flag on my back. Well, hey, I don't remember, but if the War Dramatic t-shirt ensemble has a DT like a Merc Grunt outfit, maybe I gave the War Dramatic dusters a bit of extra DT too. I'm going to check that as soon as I get back to the bar. After that, I'm going to go home to sort loot and come back for something I completely forgot while I was exploring the Divide. Geckos. I thought I was above the normally playable area of the map, but apparently not. Anyway, thanks to the comments for pointing out that there's a challenge to find all the Ralphie the Robot posters there. Might be a bit bittersweet considering what Eddie just did, but it also might be a fitting memorial. Oh, and that's what I started to say when I was talking about the Brotherhood reputation. Before he knew about accidentally destroying the Divide, the biggest single mistake on Courier Jeff's conscience due to his curiosity, or acting impulsively on incomplete information, or overconfidence, or some combination of the three, was getting Veronica killed. So completing the quest in a way that finally maxed his Brotherhood rep kind of closes the circle on the whole story that started with the original Coito Ergo Sum walkthrough. Sorry guys, didn't mean to interrupt your family dinner there. While I'm finding the posters, I'll keep an eye out for a thematically appropriate location to do a wrap-up review of the DLC like I did for the other three. Then we'll cover the last bit of crossover content, so we're not quite done yet. Just to confirm, the version of the Courier Duster the game gave me does indeed have the NCR logo on the back, but the Word Dramatic Dusters do have a bit of DT. Not even close to the real Dusters, but better than nothing. And best of all, it counts as an accessory, not a top, so it combines with the other Ward Dramatic separates, which means I can wear it and still represent the brand. Oh yeah. The first poster is right here in the Hopeville silo beside the pod where we first found Eddie, along with a Nuka-Cola quartz that I overlooked. Cool. And that's 1 of 20. The next one should be in the gas station right down the street from the silo exit. I'm using a cheat sheet from the Fallout Wiki, by the way. No sense making you watch me stumble around cluelessly now because I spazzed my first time through. There it is. 2 of 20. Next one's right across the street in the women's barracks. I'm starting to see a theme of these being in locations I already visited and probably looked right at them and didn't think to click on them. There it is. 3 of 20. Which, in my defense, they're in locations we already visited because I explored pretty thoroughly to find skill books, Ulysses logs. Hello. Oh, great. The marked men respawned. Where are they?
Stop you.
They sound close. Grenade. There's one. But I'm pretty sure there's one behind me, too. I know there's somebody else back there. They're hitting me. He's on the compass now, but I still don't see him. There he is. Now, what was I saying? Right. We explored pretty thoroughly to find skill books, holotapes, and unique loot, so it's not that surprising that the Ralphie posters are in places we've already visited. What is surprising is that I completely flaked on the fact that they're clickable and there's a challenge for finding them all. Speaking of which, the next one should be on the outside of the HQ building, around back. And there are still more marked men. That's got to be hard on your knees. You know you want to stand up. Missed. Missed again. I think some of the scenery is in the way. There we go. Still in caution. Danger. Where are they? On the roof. That anti-materiel rifle really hurts. And I'm on fire. More. What's he have? Minigun? That's not a problem. Whatever it was, I shot it out of his hand. Is he going to pick it back up? No, he's running up to the base. The one he dropped was probably broken, so he was trying to find another weapon. Now, if that's all of them, let's find that poster. There it is. 4 of 20. Next one should be in the guard outpost on the balcony outside the building with the workbench. The wiki list has one in the marked men camp next, but I think this route is more efficient. Nobody behind me. But they've respawned in the guard outpost, too. Probably across the whole map, if I had to guess. Ooh. He survived that. Very impressive. And back to hidden. I don't think I checked the balcony of this building. I went all the way around the one next door trying to get eyes on the guys over by the Warhead. No, full ammo box. And there's the poster. 5 of 20. Here's the one I skipped in the alley right down the street from the building with the detonator. 6 of 20. And the next one is in the butcher shop, which can't get to this way. Here's another one I had to see because I turned on my Pip-Boy light to show you the skeletons and made a comment about the marked men being cannibals. 7 of 20. Next one is in the alley where we found a holotape behind that locked gate. 8 of 20. Next one's in the collapsed overpass, and I'm not going to kill every marked man who respawned in their camp. Floating barrel. Weird. I'm just going to make a run for it. Hopefully they don't follow me through the loading screen. No, they did. And another one. Still in danger. Maybe they all followed me. Hidden, but... oh, no. If the marked men respawned, the tunnelers probably did too. And I am not prepared for that. I didn't bring the nail gun, or water, or basically anything, because I thought this would be an easy 5-minute in and out job. Yep, they respawned too. I'm out. So remember all those conversations with Ulysses about how Courier Jeff gets into trouble because he acts impulsively on insufficient information? Yeah. Apparently, I learned nothing from that experience. Or maybe I did, because I'm going home and coming back better prepared. Okay, we're back. This time with the nail gun for tunnelers, the anti-materiel rifle for death claws. I know it says no ammo, but I only brought armor-piercing rounds, and they don't show up on the weapons screen. And the 12.7mm submachine gun for when it's running around like a maniac time. Believe it or not, it has much higher DPS than even the fully upgraded shoulder-mounted machine gun, the only downside being lower magazine capacity, which isn't that big a deal. And make sure to remind me I said that when I get killed reloading. Anyway, the next poster is in the crow's nest, and I do have plenty of water with me this time, so I'm fast traveling to the rest of them. Cool. Didn't remember the fast travel marker being at the top, but I'm not complaining. Anyway, there's the poster. 10 of 20, halfway there. The next one is at the rest stop where we found the snow globe, and it might be a mistake to fast travel there, but hopefully the tunnelers will stay in their tunnels unless we do something to provoke them. Nope, right into the middle of them. Brilliant. And I changed my hotkeys. Apparently I didn't set one for the nail gun. Well, this should do fine. Unless they went back into their tunnels and don't want to fight. No, they were trying to get behind me at the fast travel point. Fortunately, I'm onto your tricks and I'm not there anymore. Okay, almost a reloading tragedy, but it worked out okay in the end. There's the poster, right by the fast travel point. 11 of 20. The next one's in the marked men camp between the rest stop and the Ashton silo, and it looks like the marked men haven't respawned. Not going to complain about that. The poster's supposedly in that building. There it is. Second floor on the back of the columns. 12 of 20. The next one's inside Sunstone Tower, but instead of going all the way through the Ashton silo again, it's quicker to fast travel to the map marker on the roof and backtrack a bit. If you do start on the silo side, you don't have to do the elevator ride again. The door at the control station just takes you straight to the silo interior now. Which is a bit odd, considering how hard the game tries to convince you the elevator shaft is going to explode at any second. Doesn't look like the tunnelers respawned, which is good. And there's the poster. 13 of 20. Next one is across the plaza at the 3rd Street Municipal Building, and I'm guessing we're not going to be so lucky that the marked men there didn't respawn. Don't see any red on the compass, but that doesn't mean we're safe. Oh, good. Not only did the marked men respawn, but now we have death claws, too. Well, no reason to pick a fight with them. The poster's on the top floor, and after we go through the sewer to get up there, there's no way they'll ever spot us. And it's hard to say if the tunnelers in the sewer respawned, but I already have the nail gun equipped, so no worries even if they did. Drum roll, please. They did not. Excellent. Where's the poster? Right there. In the back room where we found the skill book. 14 of 20. Well, the next poster's in the building where you guys decided to hang out, so you gotta go. Yeah, the anti-materiel rifle was a good call. Okay, this one wasn't in plain view and I just spazzed. There it is, last room. 15 of 20. Please tell me I can fast travel and I don't have to go back through the cave of the Aborting. Thank you. Although, I could have picked up the satchel charges I left behind. That's crazy talk, man. If you really want satchel charges, go to Gunrunners and buy some more. The poster should be right beside where the skill book was. Yes. 16 of 20. WikiList says the next one is in the wastewater treatment plant, but I'm going to go out of order again and pick up the one by the waste disposal station first. That's interesting. It looks like my pet mole rats not only survived, but they're breeding. There's somebody with a Gatling laser, probably a marked man. Don't know what they're shooting at. Probably a death claw. They can't see the mole rats from here. We'll just let that play out while we find the poster. Which is right there on the wall outside the waste disposal station. 17 of 20. Yes, they are shooting at a death claw. Were shooting at a death claw. So they'll still be at full health, but the death claw is no longer in our way. Sneak by them if we can. Hello. Well, that could have been a nasty surprise. Hard to say if the tunnelers and marked men respawned or not, but the 12.7 should be reasonably effective against both without having to remember my new hotkeys in the middle of a fight. Looks like they did not respawn. Which begs the question of why hotkey a customized loadout for one mission, and that's not... Hello. Okay, the tunnelers didn't respawn, but the marked men did. That's kind of weird. Anyway, if there aren't any more, the poster should be somewhere in this office. Right there on the back wall. 18 of 20. And the next one, if the list is talking about the building I think it is, I should have changed the order again, because I think it's the one on your right as you approach the ramp that leads up here. Yeah, this has to be it. There were marked men camped out on the roof around a warhead stuck in the cliff, but I blew up the warhead and ran straight to the wastewater treatment plant without even coming into this building. And there it is. 19 of 20. And if you don't already know where number 20 is, you might be able to guess if I tell you I skipped it and saved it for last. Yeah, it's in the Courier's Mile. And I'm already in caution. Good time to stop for a glamour shot. Hello. Okay, that was weird. It spotted me and then decided it had something better to do. And even my ego isn't big enough to believe it saw me with the anti-materiel rifle and said, nope, not worth it. Oh, man. Direct hit from the anti-materiel rifle with armor-piercing ammo only took down like a quarter of its health bar. I think I just... No. I thought it killed me before I got into the loading screen, but I think an auto-inject stim pack might have just saved me by the skin of my teeth. Well, don't panic. You knew they were tough, and a sneak attack probably would have one-shotted it if I'd gotten right down to business and not stopped for a selfie. Remember all those conversations with Ulysses about how Courier Jeff gets into trouble because he's overconfident? Yeah, apparently I learned nothing from them either. And maybe that's why I don't learn, because I get away with it often enough that it just reinforces the behavior. Anyway, let's find that poster and get the hell out of here. I'm still taking 2 rads a second, even with the spacesuit and Ulysses' mask. But this has to be the building they're talking about. Is that it? Yes, that's it. 20 of 20. Challenge complete. Now let's go home for some food, water, sleep, a rad scrub, and come back in daylight to do the wrap-up review. But not here. So, doing this series improved my opinion of Dead Money quite a bit, and Honest Hearts to a lesser degree. I mean, I still like Honest Hearts better than Dead Money, it just wasn't starting in such a deep hole. So, what about this one? Did I learn anything that would let it topple Old World Blues from my top spot? Or, in the other direction, anything that might diminish it, in my opinion, if I look beyond the veneer of nostalgia? In a word, no. I still like the things I always liked. It's great that you can go back to the Mojave at any time, both from a narrative perspective and the purely pragmatic advantage of being able to go home and heal, resupply, make a loot run, whatever. There are lots of new items that aren't overpowered in a way that makes you go, I'll never use anything else, but in the right circumstances can be game changers. The nail gun in particular, but also red glare and even little things like the portable bedroll. And it literally just occurred to me, but one of the things Fallout 3 did that New Vegas generally doesn't was give you ways to completely neutralize or massively reduce the threat level of certain enemies, which some people think was game-breaking, good riddance, but I liked being able to put on the ghoul mask and take a nice stress-free stroll through the metro. But in this context, I'm specifically thinking of the dart gun, which lowered the existential terror of Deathclaws to a manageable level. And the flare gun could probably serve the same purpose. Wish I thought of that at the Courier's Mile. Which is a nice segue to the other thing I really like about Lonesome Road. The new enemies are very cool, and their difficulty feels like it scales really organically with the player's level. Courier Max scraped by in the Skill Stash series, and he was way under the recommended level for the DLC, but it was still challenging for Courier Jeff at level 50. And for the most part, it didn't feel like they just piled on hit points to make the enemies bullet sponges. And even when they are, like the irradiated marked men and irradiated Deathclaws in the Courier's Mile, there was a logical plot reason for them to be that way. But it was really more about interesting twists on combat tactics, like how tunnelers use their tunnels to evade and surround you, or how the marked men's equipment and AI parameters are set up so they complement each other's abilities when they're in groups, and that makes them seem smarter than a lot of other enemies. And finally, there are some extremely memorable set pieces that are a masterclass in level design. Even if you only played Lonesome Road once, 10 years ago, if somebody says, elevator ride with tunnelers, you know exactly what they're talking about. Which is another nice segue into the part of the review that isn't quite so glowing. I have mixed feelings about the game world. I do like how almost all the buildings, once you get past Hopeville, are tilted to some degree to reflect the devastation and the divide. Sometimes it's subtle and just subconsciously disconcerting, like a Dutch angle camera shot in a movie. And sometimes it's more overt and becomes a puzzle to solve. How do I navigate this area when what used to be the wall is now the floor? An idea which is so cool I shamelessly copied it for the Lollipops interior in the crossover. What disappoints me a little bit is that the world map is very linear. There are obviously some optional areas off the beaten path, and the game rewards you appropriately for exploring them, but overall it's not the big open world kind of thing you have with the base game or the other DLC. Well, Honest Hearts and Old World Blues. Dead Money isn't strictly linear since you can recruit your 3 companions in any order, but it's about as far from an open world as it gets. And I understand that's kind of necessary in Lonesome Road for the narrative to unfold the way the designers intended, but I've said this before when ranting about invisible walls and such. I play open world RPGs because that's what I like playing. When I want a story with a linear narrative, I read a book. And that design philosophy is tied to my other 2 main complaints. First, I'm all about interesting characters, and there are only 2 non-hostile NPCs in the whole DLC. Unless you count Whitley as a character, so call it 2.5. That's almost certainly related to the theme. I mean, it's right there in the name of the DLC. But I also suspect the designers thought having more characters would distract from the story they were trying to tell. Although, back to things I really like for a second, if you're only going to have 2 characters, you'd better make them good, and Lonesome Road definitely delivers there. Ulysses in particular is a fantastic character with a great voice actor, and his dialogue is nothing short of brilliant. It's just vague enough to let you project your own assumptions onto it and keep you guessing, but meaty enough that it's satisfying and doesn't come across as cryptic and contrived and frustrating like some of the dialogue in Dead Money. And of course, the new twist on Eddie is cool too, especially if you played Fallout 3, so the callbacks really hit the mark. And finally, there's something else I have mixed feelings about, but it's escaping my mind right now. What was it? It's not the continuity problem with the world map. That's just cosmetic and kind of amusing. Well, that's it. Humor. Like I said several times in the Old World Blues playthrough, one of the main things I love about it and about the Fallout franchise as a whole is the dark humor. That's very much lacking in Lonesome Road, which once again is almost certainly related to the theme of the DLC. I'm sure the game designers thought a lighter tone would be inappropriate for discovering you were inadvertently responsible for a horrible atrocity. But the franchise as a whole covers a 200-year span of the aftermath of a nuclear war with a generous amount of gallows humor. So I'm not sure I agree with the decision to make this DLC unrelentingly, well, I was going to say grim, but it's not really grim, it's just unrelentingly serious. Which, fair enough, maybe you think that's a refreshing change, and I have to admit, it works. Like, I frequently miss things when I'm playing that I notice later when I'm editing or reviewing the finished video. Usually mistakes I made, or missed opportunities, or interesting stuff happening in the background that I didn't see because my attention was focused elsewhere. This time, one thing I didn't realize until I was editing the last few episodes was some of the thoughts I had in the back of my mind for this wrap-up didn't quite jive with what went through my head when I was playing it. I could hear things in my own reactions to some of the key plot points that challenged Courier Jeff's self-image, and by extension, my own. Which, like I said last week, or maybe the week before, I think good storytelling in a game can be just as powerful as good storytelling in movies or literature, and one key characteristic of good storytelling is that it makes you think and grow. So yeah, mixed feelings on the uncharacteristically serious tone, too. And I've been monologuing for a long time, which is maybe another indication of how much I like this DLC. Overall, I'd say Old World Blues is still just hands down perfect for me. It's still my favorite DLC for New Vegas, the Fallout franchise as a whole, and maybe any game ever. But among the New Vegas DLC, Lonesome Road is a close second, head and shoulders above the other 2. And as always, that's just how I feel about them. I'm not saying one is better or worse in any objective sense. If Lonesome Road is your all-time favorite, or if you hate it, that's not right or wrong, it's just a reflection of different preferences. But speaking of deadly serious, or not, there are a couple crossover features left to show you. I have a tendency to overlook Debbie because she's always either back here in the corner or up in her room, and the only new thing I've given her since I bought out the business from Hilly was the star bottle cap necklace.
Hey, what's up?
But I think this Lana Elsker outfit suits her perfectly. A little bit country, a little bit rock and roll. Angie, I owe you an apology. Ever since I hired you, you've been nothing but pleasant and cordial with me, and I repaid that by making fun of you and giving you less than elegant outfits while everybody else got all the good souvenirs. And sadly, I didn't find anything in the Divide that I think you'd like, and I can't take back the Vera Keys dress from Fiona because that wouldn't be fair to her. But making you walk around in a patient gown was a dick move, so I hope you'll like this.
Sure.
The little black dress isn't a crossover item, it's in the Coito Ergo Sum base mod, but it's stylish and sexy, so I think it's right up her alley. There you go. I genuinely think you'll like this one.
Bye-bye.
And if finally treating her with a bit of respect doesn't quite make up for accidentally destroying a budding civilization, it at least demonstrates that my personal journey of growth has taken another step forward. Of course, I figured I'd have to babysit him, but by the time I finished disposing of the loose warheads, he'd pretty much mopped up all the marked men and was coming to check if I was okay. I guess what I'm saying is, I think my first impression was actually right all along, and the nuclear missile threat was just a temporary, if misguided, attempt to cope with some very deep personal trauma, a big part of which, accidental or not, was my fault. And while we still have some differences, and they're not insignificant differences, I think our similarities are even more significant. You should meet him. Come on, I think you'll like him. And here he is, just beyond the canyon wreckage, right where he said he would be, and where the ending slideshow showed him.
Full circle. Walked your road. Now back again. Something else in you needing an answer.
Yeah, I tend to overlay what I really want to say over the menu option that matches it closest, so while my headcanon is that I told him the first time we met that I killed Kaisar, this is the first time the game really lets you do that. So let's get his thoughts on that.
Names die twice to history. If the West thanks you, the East won't in time. Fall apart. Back to the tribes, maybe. Too soon to tell what will happen. Let history weigh what you've done, if it gets that far.
I had a feeling you wouldn't be all broken up about it, but you never really know unless you ask.
Done with blame. And Kaisar was big on strength making right. Seems to me you proved that philosophy to him. If he was too weak to stop you, too weak to defend himself, then he needed to die with his beliefs. Unless you do the same for the legate that comes, you'll get no thanks from me. When that monster arrives, he's not going to have a leash. Kaisar could command him. Not now. The bear is going to burn, and burn slow.
Oh, don't worry. When Linnaeus shows up, I'll deliver the same message to him that I delivered to Kaisar. And it might interest you to know the message wasn't keep your hands off the NCR. It was, and I quote, Fiona says thanks for taking my baby away. And along those lines, how do you feel about me putting House on timeout and taking over New Vegas myself?
House spoke, acted through machines. Sometimes can judge a man by his messengers. Sometimes the messengers judge him. Wonder what happens to Vegas now. The tribes, families. We'll see.
Even though we never talked about House before. It's basically impossible to hear all of his dialogue in one playthrough because so much of it is conditional on which faction you've sided with, if any. Which brings up an interesting point, but we'll get to that in a minute. I kind of thought you might be happy that he's out of the picture.
What you did was for the best. The old world died long ago. Anyone who believes they can make it return, and everything will be as it was. It is a dangerous belief. Needs to be silenced before their belief spreads. Let House sleep in his chamber. Let him dream of the old world he remembers, and keep those memories where they belong. In his head.
Yeah, political philosophy and role-playing aside, the meta reason I was so surprised he pegged me as NCR is that I'm far enough in the main quest that I'm locked into the Yes Man ending. It didn't trash my NCR rep, but they won't give me missions anymore. Anyway, have you been to Hopeville since the Ashton missile hit?
Walk there sometimes. Keep the walks short. Still, it's important to see. Something else to answer for. Occasionally sift through the dust, the buildings. See if I can find some history, marks of America. If you want them, keep them. You've earned it. Nothing to be gained by me holding them, and more will surface in time.
So just like any characters you befriended in Old World Blues, you can come back periodically and get little gifts from him. And that's all pretty good stuff. What about the marked men?
That's part of why I'm here. Watch them. If they attack me, try to enter the Mojave. I answer, not looking to kill them. Save them, if I can. There might be something saving in them. If not, then what I do is mercy, not murder.
You'll get no argument from me. And the Divide's really not that irradiated, especially now that we disposed of all the loose warheads. Well, except for the Courier's mile, but we won't bring that up again. I do still want to ask this, though, because it brings up an interesting topic. Are you sure you want to stay here?
The invisible fires burn here, true enough. Still, to have helped carry out such an act, then not face it, not my way. If my life burns out here, so be it. Until then, I wait and watch, see what the road brings.
I've read that early in the conceptual design phase of New Vegas, there were plans to make Ulysses a potential companion, but that idea was cut from the base game. And I don't know if that line means they briefly considered resurrecting the adversary-turned-companion concept in the DLC and it got cut again, or if it's just a wink and a nod to the original idea. Anyway, I had a few more questions.
Questions have a habit of making others.
And that's all very interesting, very cool follow-up if you bother coming back to visit him after you finish the DLC, but I think you probably know why I'm really here. I don't know exactly how much I've changed since the first time you followed me to the Divide, if at all. And I don't know how different what I built there is from what I've been building since Benny shot me in the head, if at all. But I do know that your opinion of Kaisar and his policies has done a 180. And I'm hoping that extends to his hypocritical nonsense about profligates. Because if we agree that we can offer a better way, and I believe we can, advocates of change need publicity. And if you've really been keeping tabs on me this whole time, you know my editorials have never been pro-NCR propaganda. But that is my biggest market, and they are the people whose hearts and minds we need to win. Bottom line, you should pose for He3 magazine.
Paper, ink. You carry old world ideas into an age that no longer needs them.
Nah, quite the reverse. And it's not just beefcake. There's also an interview section. Explain your philosophy.
These questions, your words or mine, what do they matter?
Because delivering information to people who need it? That's what couriers do.
A new way to carry my message. Fitting.
And fortunately, he's one of the characters who only gets fully nude if you have a nude mod. Which is interesting, because he does have a photo shoot outfit. He doesn't just strip to whatever the default undressed male body is. Not sure why I did it that way, but it's convenient because I won't have to do the digital blur thing. I'm probably not going to schlep back to Lollipops and do a layout just so I can show you the Luma screen, because it's basically what you see here, him posing on this cliff. Although it is nude and I would have to censor it. As you might expect, he's an elite tier cover model, middle tier appearance, standard disclaimer, not my decision, that's where he came out on a public poll that set all the bonuses for all the models, and middle tier attitude bonus, sexy but not lewd, and he qualifies for the tribal or bookworms theme issues. And while I'm not saying Courier Jeff doesn't take his goals seriously, destigmatizing erotica and spreading the mutually supporting ideals of liberty, tolerance, and independence that the Legion actively opposes and the NCR only barely pretends to represent, I would say he thinks this is a welcome contrast to the unrelenting seriousness of Lonesome Road itself. So, what do you think? Is a threesome back on the table, or what? Oh yeah, she digs him. It's gonna happen. And that's the end of both Lonesome Road and the DLC crossover. As for what's next on the channel, first I'm gonna take a month off. Doing a weekly series is a little too busy and stressful for me. My goal has always been to average at least one video per month, and I already had 12 in the bag by the end of March, but I'm not taking the rest of the year off. After the break, I'll be back with something that's been kicking around in my subconscious for quite some time, and it's a little bit different. The 2023 April Fool's episode was a joke about doing a project that combines my passions, but I realized that's actually a pretty good idea. People always seem really interested when I talk about behind-the-scenes stuff, so I thought, why not make a video series about making a mod? It wouldn't be a full-blown modding tutorial, because that's only interesting to a very limited audience, and there are plenty of good ones already. But I could show you some of the stuff that goes on under the hood, and how mods can change it, and then see the end result of those changes when playing. But what kind of mod? Well, again taking inspiration from a joke, my very first April Fool's video was about a Fallout 3 pacifist run, and the punchline was that it failed miserably because the game makes you kill a radroach in the tutorial. But while New Vegas gets a lot of well-deserved respect for being flexible enough to make almost any playstyle viable, including a 100% no-kill run, Fallout 3 comes pretty close. There are only a handful of places where it forces you to kill something to make progress, and I could mod my way around them to make a true pacifist run possible. Of course, if the only goal was getting to the end of the game with your kill counter at 0, you could do that with console commands. So the real challenge and the real fun will be doing it in a way that's not too meta and at least plausibly consistent with canon. The nice thing is I won't feel like I'm tied to an upload schedule because adding features just takes as long as it takes. Then I can make a video, get feedback, and start working on the next feature. And that's another thing I like about the idea. Besides enabling a true no-kill run, you might have strong feelings about other missed opportunities in the game. If I agree with your suggestions, and they're feasible in terms of the game's technical capabilities and my level of effort, the mod and the video series could both become a player-driven, crowdsourced kind of thing. I think it'll be fun, and hopefully you agree. And that, I think, is everything I wanted to say before signing off. As always, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you this summer.